Amid the calm streets of Ventura, California, a seemingly typical suburban romance transformed into a chilling narrative of deceit, betrayal, and murder that captivated the community in the mid-1990s. The central figures in this dark drama were Michael Daly, his wife Sherry Daly, and Michael's mistress, Diana Hahn. Michael Daly, a married man and father, worked at a local grocery store where he met Diana Hahn, a clerk. Their professional relationship quickly escalated into a clandestine affair. As the romance intensified, so did their resolve to eliminate the one obstacle to their happiness: Michael's wife, Sherry. The plot they concocted was as cold-blooded as it was audacious. On the morning of May 6, 1996, Sherry Daly was approached in the parking lot of a department store by a figure dressed as a police officer. This figure, who was later identified as Diana Hahn, convinced Sherry that she was under arrest. Witnesses recalled seeing Sherry being handcuffed and led to a minivan, seemingly compliant with the arrest, unaware of the grim fate that awaited her. For weeks, the community and authorities searched desperately for Sherry, hoping for her safe return. The search came to a tragic end when Sherry's body was discovered in a secluded ravine. She had been brutally murdered, suffering multiple stab wounds in a crime of savage ferocity. The investigation swiftly turned towards Diana Hahn after police discovered critical evidence. In her car were the remnants of the police disguise and other materials used to abduct Sherry, unequivocally linking her to the crime. Further scrutiny revealed not only the illicit affair between Diana and Michael, but also their mutual involvement in the planning and execution of the murder. The affair and subsequent murder trial captured public and media attention, unveiling a web of deceit that had lurked beneath the surface of what appeared to be ordinary lives. Both Diana Hahn and Michael Daly were arrested and charged with the murder. During the trial, details of their twisted plot emerged, painting a picture of calculated evil. Diana Hahn was portrayed as the primary executor of the murder. Her actions and preparations were detailed meticulously, from the procurement of the police costume to her chillingly calm demeanor during and after the abduction. She was found guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping, receiving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Michael Daly, too, faced justice. Although he was not present at the scene of the crime, evidence and testimony during the trial convinced the jury of his complicity. He was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and was also sentenced to life in prison. The trial and its aftermath left the community of Ventura shaken, with many struggling to comprehend how such a calculated and heartless crime could have been conceived and carried out among them. The Daly Hahn case serves as a grim reminder of the destructive power of infidelity, jealousy, and malice. It underscores the depths to which individuals can sink when consumed by illicit desires and the willingness to betray those closest to them for selfish ends. This case remains a subject of analysis and discussion among criminologists and the public alike, often cited as a stark example of how deeply hidden personal turmoil can lead to catastrophic outcomes, not just for the individuals directly involved, but for the entire community. The story of Michael Daly, Diana Hahn, and Sherry Daly is a chilling testament to the dark side of human nature and the devastating impact of betrayal. In the serene suburbs of San Diego, California, the late 1980s bore witness to a harrowing drama that unfolded between Elizabeth Betty Broderick and her ex-husband, Daniel Dan Broderick II. This story, rooted in a bitter and protracted divorce, spiraled into a tragic crime that shocked a community and underscored the dark intersections of marital discord and mental collapse. Betty, once a devoted suburban housewife and mother of four, found her seemingly idyllic life crumbling when Dan, a successful attorney, filed for divorce in 1985. What began as a partnership filled with promise devolved into years of acrimonious legal battles over finances and custody, leaving a trail of public disputes and private agonies. The couple had met in the early 1960s while attending college. Betty supported Dan through both medical and law school, believing their shared sacrifices would forge an unbreakable bond. Yet as Dan's career soared, the marital rifts widened, exacerbated by his affair with Linda Kolkina, a young woman he met at his law firm. This betrayal was the catalyst for the divorce that would bitterly consume the next 5 years of their lives. As the proceedings dragged on, Betty's behavior grew increasingly erratic and destructive. She vented her fury in a barrage of voicemails left on Dan's answering machine, each message a mix of insults, threats, and anguished pleas. Her public outbursts became commonplace, as did impulsive acts like driving her car into the front of Dan's new home, where he lived with Linda, now his wife. The divorce was finalized in 1989, but the scars were deep, the battles merely evolving rather than concluding. Betty was left feeling betrayed by the legal system, perceiving it as favoring Dan, who had both legal expertise and the means to manipulate proceedings to his advantage. Her access to her children became restricted, her financial state precarious. The culmination of this fractured tale occurred in the early hours of November 5, 1989. Driven by a maelstrom of rage and despair, Betty used a key stolen from her daughter to enter Dan and Linda's home. There, in the darkness of their bedroom, she shot them both as they slept, a brutal and irrevocable act that severed the remaining threads of her former life. The murder sent ripples of horror through San Diego. The Brodericks, once prominent and respected members of their community, became central figures in a story of domestic tragedy. Betty's arrest followed shortly after the crime, and her trial became a focal point of national attention, dissecting the details of a marriage gone fatally awry. During her trials, she was tried twice, with the first ending in a hung jury. Betty's defense painted a picture of a woman pushed beyond her limits by emotional and psychological abuse. They argued that Dan's control and manipulation had cornered her into a state of desperation. However, the prosecution countered with evidence of premeditation and her own incriminating statements, portraying her as a murderer who chose violence over other resolutions. Ultimately, the jury convicted Betty of 2 counts of second-degree murder. Her sentence was 32 years to life in prison, an outcome that did little to heal the community stunned by the tragedy. The public and media debates raged on, some painting Betty as a victim of an unfair legal system and a manipulative husband, others as a perpetrator of inexcusable violence. Betty Broderick's story has been the subject of numerous books, articles, and television series, each exploring the psychological and societal pressures that shaped the case. Her actions are often discussed in the context of debates about divorce, mental health, and the legal system's handling of marital disputes. Decades later, the case of Betty Broderick remains a chilling reminder of how personal anguish can escalate into public tragedy, leaving a legacy of questions about justice, retribution, and the possibilities of understanding human frailty. Her story serves as a stark illustration of the darkest outcomes of broken love and broken systems, echoing through the annals of true crime history. If you found these stories intriguing, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into true crime tales that reveal the darker sides of human nature and the secrets lurking behind seemingly ordinary lives.